Don't miss any of the action at Oceanside, Chula Vista, Torrey Pines, and many more San Diego schools. Download the free UT Preps app on Google Play or the Apple App Store.
Hey sports fans, welcome into the first ever San Diego Prep Insider Water Polo podcast. I'm Christian Pedersen. This is La Jolla High head coach and CIF advisory board member Tom Atwell, and we are sitting poolside about to talk some water polo. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming out today.
That's good to be here. So what this is going to be is kind of a place for us to talk results, talk what's coming up, highlight some players, just give general love to the community of San Diego High School water polo. So let's start off with last year's champions. Cathedral Catholic, the Open Division, La Jolla Division 1, San Marcos Division 2, Point Loma Division 3. Let's just kind of run down what you've seen from the champs so far this year. Let's start with Cathedral Catholic.
Well, Cathedral, is they reload every year, but they also, kept some of the great players they had from last year. I look for them to be a strong contender for the Open Division again this year. Actually, today they're heading up to the Elite 8 tournament, which is the top 8 teams, what are perceived to be the top 8 teams, and really probably in the nation for high school water polo. And I know their first game today is against Harvard Westlake, who's ranked #1 in the nation. So they're going to be tested early against the best teams from around the country. And I think that, coming out of this weekend, we'll have a good read on probably where they fit in for San Diego. If they're the top team, they're definitely going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams for San Diego for the Open Division this year.
Before we get to the other teams, let's talk about something you brought up there. San Diego teams going to play teams outside of San Diego. Now, we see that sometimes in other sports with football and basketball, bringing teams in from LA or whatever, and it seems like the San Diego teams kind of across the board lose in the other sports. But in water polo, not so much the truth. Water polo, we go and we kind of represent pretty well. Do you think that makes a statement that what's being played here in San Diego is on par with everything else nationwide?
Yeah, I think that this, San Diego water polo, especially in you take the top 6 teams or so, really about a third of our games are played away outside of our division here, outside of the county of San Diego, and our top tier teams are definitely as competitive as anyone around the country. That LA and Orange County are still kind of the top tier programs, have the top tier programs and the top tier teams. But we hold our own. I know that Coronado and Bishops and Cathedral all have done well outside the county over the past several years, and will continue to do so this year. We were just up at Menlo Park for a tournament up there, and we finished 3rd in the tournament. We beat St. Francis from up there, who we had never beaten before. So we hold our own, definitely. I think San Diego does.
You're talking about that's the La Jolla Vikings. We're just up in Menlo Park. Let's talk a little bit about last year's D1 champions. What do you see out of your team this year? What are we going to be able to see out of them all season long?
Well, this year's team is the dynamics are different than last year. We had a couple star athletes last year that kind of garnered all the attention. This year we have a very spread out attack, and we run really 8 or 10 deep of players that can play multiple positions. So I look for a much more balanced attack this year from La Jolla.
Now, another team that you were talking about before the show that you think has a very impressive attack was the San Marcos Knights, last year's Division 2 champions. What do you see from them this season?
I think they're going to be just as competitive. I'm not sure if they're going to make the jump into Division 1, but if they stay in Division 2, I think they're a definite contender to win the Division 2 championship again.
So the San Marcos Knights looking like they might put together back-to-back really impressive seasons. So some love coming out of the North County. Another team that looks poised to be impressive is the Point Loma Pointers, coming off that D3 title. They graduated a couple of their starting players, but one player I want to highlight who was only a freshman last year and actually had the best game of his career in that championship game was Chris Ball. Younger kid, little bit smaller, not able to get physical on the interior, but definitely a finesse scorer. So the question mark for Point Loma is going to be size as they move up in Division 2, but Coach Tomo really seems to be confident with his offense and their ability to score. So Point Loma, pretty interesting, going to be making that jump up. A lot of fun to watch. That's last year's champions. Now let's just kind of get to the rest of the county. What are some things to look for people that know nothing about water polo, that they need to kind of have a navigation guide to go to what to look at? Just give us some points on what to look for this season from various teams.
Well, out of the East County, I know Valhalla. They had their star player last year, and actually I have a note from the coach, Ken Houston. And Kent says that their star player Andrew Higginson, who scored the majority of their goals last year, and this year already in 6 games has 27 goals and 15 steals. So he's playing at a very high level. Higginson is, and I think will continue. He's going to just continue to develop over the next couple of years. I see him as whatever division they're in, he's a definitely potential that division player of the year.
So we got Valhalla out in the East County. Give us another team.
Another team down in the South Bay is Hilltop, and they have 2 stud seniors that are kind of leading their team. Their goalie is averaging 18 saves a game at this point, and then that's Daniel Godinez, and then Caleb Macias is their center forward, and he's got 5 goals per game. So I look for Hilltop to be a contender in their division as we go, the season winds down.
I can absolutely agree with that. Coach Medina always seems to have his squads well coached on the technical aspects of the game, but you're right to single out their goalie. We got to see him play against Helix earlier this season, and he was a one-man highlight show with the wingspan, getting out there, blocking balls. It seems like it's kind of been the last couple of years. Hilltop has been the team to beat down in the South County. Would you agree?
I totally agree. In fact, Coach Medina has done an amazing job on both the girls' side and the boys' side. He's done amazing things for South Bay water polo and keeping it alive down there. He's got a great energy, and I think that his teams are so well coached. I see them as definite contenders.
Actually, right here at this very pool, they brought home their first girls title last season, so that was an impressive mark. So we've got an East County team, we've got a South Bay team. Give us a North County team that we can kind of look for this season to make some impressive waves.
Well, Carlsbad is definitely one of the top tier teams in the Open Division, and they just beat Lucerna this last week and are playing very well. Daniel Norman is their center defender. And is one of their stud players, and I see him, really kind of keeping their defense together. So I think Carlsbad's one of the top contenders.
Wonderful. So we got a little bit of each part of the county, which is awesome to be saying that we're at a point in the game where it's evolved now that it's not just the coastal small schools, it's everybody's starting to get involved in this. Let's transition now to a segment that we're going to do every week. We're going to take a look at some of the games coming up next week, give you a little preview, a little breakdown of some. I want to start game coming up this Saturday, the 17th, which if you're not doing anything on Saturday, come check this one out. This is going to be a big battle. La Jolla, Coronado. I know you have probably a little bit of bias, but you also have a lot of insight into this one. What can people look for in this game?
Well, I think, Coronado's teams are always incredibly well coached. Sean Castillo is the new head coach there at Coronado after Coach Burgess stepped down and retired. And they're going to be very strong again. I know Andy Rogers, their sophomore, is a definite scoring threat from anywhere in the pool. He's got a great arm. And their goalie is a senior this year, and is I think it's probably one of the best goalies in the county. So they're going to put on a strong performance.
So a lot of fun to watch. That one might be the biggest high school game to go watch in any sport this weekend. So that'll be a lot of fun. Later in next week, we've got Helix going to Santana. That one's going to be on the 20th. That's sort of our East County matchup to look at. Now, I've got to see Helix play already this season once, and they have a very, very fun-to-watch offense. They had a lot of kids rearing back, taking maybe a little bit of reckless shots at times, and I saw Coach Hull be like, oh, he was great, he was clenching a little bit, maybe give him a little bit of an ulcer, but that Helix team, they like to shoot, and that's something that is impressive to see. On the flip side, Santana, not necessarily a star-driven team, but they are also a team that has had some success so far early in the season, winning a couple of games on at their don't really call it home turf, do you? Call it your home pool, home water. So that Helix Santana game, definitely want to go check that out for your East County games. And then one last game we're going to get to next week. Give us a little bit of insight on this one. Torrey Pines Vista. Now you guys took on Vista earlier this year in a scrimmage. Torrey Pines is another team that's kind of like Cathedral, where it seems like they always replenish nicely. What can we look forward to in that game?
Well, Torrey Pines, they've been building that program back up again over the last couple of years, and so I see Torrey Pines just getting better and better every year. Probably a very balanced attack. Vista, they have some very strong offensive players. Josh Spence leads that group. Coach Spence's son, who's a senior this year, Josh is, and he is a definite scoring threat from anywhere. He's burned us for lots of goals over the last couple of years. We played them in CIF semifinals last year, and he put on a great display. So I see him as being their leader and their primary scorer this year for Vista. And I think Vista is going to be a contender all the way through in the Open Division this year.
Vista looked very impressive when we got to see them early on in the season. Some of their players made our watch list in our last TV show. Coach, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So what this is going to be is that we're going to get here every week and talk, but we also need you, the viewers and fans, to let us know a little bit of what's going on around the county. Let us know what you want to talk about. If there's any games you want us to break down, you can tweet at us, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, MySpace. We accept carrier pigeons, any sort of messages you want to send to us, because we want this to be a dialogue. We don't want this to just be us talking at you guys saying, here's how it is in San Diego County. We want to create an environment where anybody and everybody can have their say on San Diego high school water polo. So we will be coming back at you poolside 1 week from now. Thank you very much, and go check out some of these games, because you got great water polo being played all over the county. Thank you very much, guys.